the creator, now bowing to the created. Now I can stand bolder, my heart and mind are sober. Looking to see a sign, my staff turned to a cobra. With magic they did the same, refused to fear his name. Hearts remain hard till their firstborns were slain. The knowledge you have is vain. Chakras and kundalinis, Kabbalah, tree of life, witchcraft and genies, mystery school teaching. Of course it gotta be right, you know it all. Somebody gain eternal life. Were you there when he made the earth? When he formed man's bones, only used the dirt? Were you there when he made the planets? Please tell me how he did it if you understand it. Were you there when he made the heavens? And all their array rested on the seventh. All you have is speculation and theories. Gave us basic commands, we comprehend them clearly. What's the purpose of living? What's the purpose of dying? Who do you believe when everybody is lying? How do you wait fire? Count the sands of the seas. Tell me how many stars throughout the galaxy. Some things only God knows. If questions linger in your mind till your eyes close. But here's something you can understand. Fear Yah and his commands, the duty of man. While you still have a chance, fear Yah and his commands, the duty of man. While you still have a chance, fear Yah and his commands, the duty of man.
All right, good to see y'all. Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Little sister, Anaya and Menelik.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom.
How y'all doing this morning?
Good.
Good. Good to see y'all. All right. We can go ahead and kick this thing off, y'all. Another brother I know say I want to respect everybody's time. We're gonna keep this down to 1 hour today. Yeah, right. What that rarely happens here. I try to, believe it or not. I'll shoot for an hour every time we do these. I do. At the wisdom and the advice of my Isha. Coach say that's half a lesson. No, I know people do that. I know people that shoot for that. You know, how we're gonna try to cut it? Boom.
White church time.
Now, I know Bruce to do that. Ain't nothing wrong with it. You know, I get it. You start losing people after a while, a lot of times, you know. All right, so look, we are picking back up on this priesthood study. Been a minute, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Been a minute, but we are back in action. So this is the 12th installment of this priesthood series. And in this section, we're dealing with the covenants and we're dealing with Jacob and Esau, part 2. So we dealt with Isaac and Ishmael last week, and we started talking about Jacob and Esau. We read how the covenants that Yahuah made with Abraham were passed from Abraham to Isaac, and how Abraham made sure that even though he had other children, he gave the blessings, he gave them blessings, but what Yah told him he was going to possess and was for him and his seed, he made sure that was passed to Isaac, and he sent those other children packing. After he remarried, it's like, look, you good, I love you, but this is for them, that's for you, there you go. That was mean, wasn't it? It was rude and uncalled for.
Necessary.
That's what the book say, and that's all we're dealing with is exactly what it say, right? So today we're going to be reading from the book of Jubilees. We're going to be reading from the book of Jasher, and we're going to be reading from the Standard 66. Whatever translation you have is good. I will share my screen like I did last time. That seemed to work out fairly well. And for those of y'all that didn't get the notification, I want to publicly say, y'all pray for the nation. You know, it's a lot going on with all of us individually. You know, I remember Coach Gabor gave a really good testimony about her being and what was going on with him. It's just, you know, things like that are going on in all of our lives. I texted y'all, I forwarded y'all a text that I got from another Ak about somebody getting shot, and they in the hospital right now struggling, fighting for their life, fam. And you know, let's keep the nation in prayer, fam. We all going through it. If we not personally going through it, I'm sure we all know somebody else who is going through it. So, you know, in the mornings when you hitting your knees, in the evening when you're hitting your knees, let's not forget to send prayers up for those of us whose names are trying to be written in the book of life, family. We got to do that for each other. So anyway, let me share my screen real quick, and we can go ahead and kick this off. All right, can everybody see that? Hallelujah. So I didn't ask, fam. Are we good on the volume on the microphone? Y'all hear us okay? Okay, what about yes, absolutely. Is somebody posting that for, or do I need to post it? Pseudepigrapher.org. Pseudepigrapher.org will give you the link for all of those. Torah, Koti Keisha on it today. Appreciate that. Can you guys hear Rib all right?
Test it, 1, 2. Test it, 1, 2.
Hallelujah. Torah for the reading. Koti Rib. If somebody would like to post scriptures in the chat, just in case, I know I got them up here, but you know, just in case somebody missed it, feel free, and I appreciate it in advance if y'all do. So starting off with Jubilees, chapter 7. Jubilees, chapter 7, and we're looking at how Abraham dealt with the separation of Ishmael and Isaac. We still going forward, but this is just kind of refreshing us on where we were. 11 through 13, whenever you're ready. Jubilees chapter 20.
Oh,
verses. Did I say 7? I apologize. Chapter 11, verses 11 through 13, whenever you're ready. Chapter 20, verses 11 through. Every time I repeat it, I'm going to say something different. Y'all keep asking me. Chapter 20, verses 11 through 17.
And he gave to Ishmael.
He is Abraham. I'm sorry, just as a reference.
And he gave to Ishmael and his sons and to the sons of Keturah gifts and sent them away from Isaac his son. Mm-hmm. And he gave everything to Isaac his son. And Ishmael and his son and the sons of Keturah and their sons went together and dwelt from Haran to the entering in Babylon. Mm-hmm. In all the land which is toward the east, facing the desert.
Now that's interesting because now we're dealing with once he sent Ishmael away and Keturah and her sons. So Ishmael and his family and Keturah and her sons, they went to dwell over in that land toward Babylon and toward the east. Go ahead.
And these mingled with each other, and their names was called Arabs and Ishmaelites.
Now, remember we talked a while ago about the word Arab. And there's 2 translations in Hebrew for what the word Arab means. One is a raven, and the other is mixed. And so when you're thinking about the Arabs and the Arab nations, just as we read about their origins right here, these are a mixed people. You're dealing with Abraham's son Ishmael and who he mixed his seed with, and also Keturah and her sons, and then they continue mixing on down the line. We also read how Yahuah told Rebekah, who was Isaac's wife, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, that 2 nations were in her womb and how the elders should rule over the younger. Also how Abraham pulled her to the side because of Isaac's bias toward Esau. Isaac loved Esau, right? And confirmed to her that the blessings and the covenants that Yahuah had promised to him should be filled in Isaac and not Esau. So now we're going to look at how Yahuah's plan plays out. So let's go to the book of Jasher, chapter 26. And let's look at 16 to 18. Told out everybody that's tuning in via YouTube. I know we got a pretty consistent viewership that don't come in live, but we still appreciate y'all. Thank you for your comments and all of your input, your questions and all of that. It's all good. We appreciate it.
16 to 18.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like that fruit. Okay.
Juicy fruit.
And Isaac, the son of Abraham, was 60 years old when he begot him.
Mm-hmm.
And the boys grew up to their 15th year, and they came amongst the society of men.
Mm.
Esau was a designing and deceitful man.
What do you think that means? Designing. Well, we know deceitful, crafty, right?
Correct.
Yeah. He always designing how I'm gonna do this, how I'm gonna do that, but not in a righteous manner.
Right.
Plotting on people. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, we're looking at these characteristics. Yeah.
And an expert hunter in the field. And Jacob was a man perfect and wise, dwelling in tents, feeding flocks, and learning the instructions of the master and the commands of his father and mother.
Mm-hmm.
And Isaac and the children of his household dwelt with his father Abraham in the land of Canaan. And Yahuah had commanded them, as Yahuah had commanded them.
Good. Told out. So, we've covered a lot of ground so far. If we're keeping in mind the theory that we have from the beginning, that we're tracking 2 different spirits in the earth that are attempting to possess 2 different people in the earth, or 2 different peoples, nations, even before these nations were fully formed, right? We're watching it grow and develop as we go through these scriptures. We're watching it play out, right? How the adversary influenced Cain, how the adversary influenced Nimrod, how the adversary is now influencing, how the adversary influenced Ishmael, and now how the adversary is influencing Esau. We watched also how those who had a heart to be near and close to Yahuah kept digging into his instructions and his ways. And so we see an obvious pattern. Jacob, it clearly says here, in addition to being a wise and perfect man, as they say, how do we know? Well, what were his actions? His actions were, he sat and made sure that he was learning the instructions of the master and the commandments of his mother and father. So he stayed right there until he learned what he needed to know in order to then develop his own relationship with the Heavenly Father, so that Yahuah could then take him from where his mother and father brought him to in his learning and take it from there and keep on going. Let's skip to same chapter. Oh, wait. I got here 20. It must still be 26. Does 21 say, and Abraham gave all that he had to his son Isaac? Okay, good. That should be 26 then. So skip to 26 and read 21 and 22 for me.
Okay. So,
No. Skip down to verse 21. Stay in the same chapter.
So read 21.
21 and 22.
Okay.
Please.
And Abraham gave all that he had to his son Isaac. He also gave him all his treasures.
Mm-hmm.
And he commanded him, saying, Dost thou not know and understand the master that Yahuah is our power in heaven and in earth, and there is no other beside him.
Hallelujah. So again, confirming that he gave everything that he had to Isaac. Let's go to where we read about Abraham blessing Isaac. Let's go to Jubilees 21. The book of Jubilees, chapter 21, starting in verse 1. The book of Jubilees, chapter 1, beginning at verse 1. And we're going to go through, just start reading.
Okay.
We'll talk as we go. Yep.
And in the 6th year of the 7th week of this Jubilee, Abraham called Isaac his son, and he commanded him, saying, I am become old, and know not the days of my death, and I am full of my days. And behold, I am 175 years old. And throughout all the days of my life, I have remembered the Master, and sought with all my heart to do his will, and to walk uprightly in all his ways. My soul has hated idols, and I have despised those that serve them.
Characteristics of those who are following in his lineage, right? Despised those who served idols. Go ahead.
And I have given my heart and spirit that I might observe to do the will of him who created me. For he is the living power, and he is set apart and faithful, and he is righteous beyond all. And there is with him no accepting of men's persons, and no accepting of gifts. For Yahuah is righteous, and executed judgment on all those who transgress his commands and despise his covenant. And do thou, my son, observe his commandments, and his ordinance, and his judgment, and walk not after the abomination, and after the graven images, and after the molten images, and eat no blood at all of animals or cattle, or of any bird which flies in the heavens.
So this is one of those ones where, you're going to stop and ask yourself, okay, what is this? Is this then saying that you shouldn't eat meat, or you shouldn't eat animals, even though the Levitical law say that some animals are clean and some animals are unclean? And if it wasn't sure, it should be clear when you continue reading. Go ahead.
And if thou dost slay a victim as an acceptable peace offering, slay ye it, and pour out its blood upon the altar. And all the fat of the offering offer on the altar with fine flour, and the meat offering. Mingle with oil, with its drink offering, offer with all together on the altar of burnt offering. It is a sweet savor before Yahuah.
Well, there you go. You got the meat, the flour, the oil, and a little something to drink it down. All right, go ahead.
And thou wilt offer the fat of the sacrifice of thanks offering on the fire, which is upon the altar, and the fat which is on the belly, and all the fat on the inwards, and the 2 kidneys, and all the fat that is upon them, and upon the loins, and the liver upon thou shalt remove, together with the kidneys.
Do y'all remember the law of the sacrifice as we were reading through Leviticus? Does this sound eerily similar to the exact same way that Yahuah was breaking down how the offerings should be sacrificed, what you should set aside, what you should eat, what parts of it you should not eat? Don't it sound like the exact same thing? But this is Abraham telling Isaac. So the Levitical priesthood has not been instituted yet. Again, we're dealing with that Melchizedekian order. We're dealing with that order of rulers and priests that is outside the Levitical order. All right, let's go ahead.
And eat its meat on the day and on the second day. And offer all these for a sweet savor acceptable before Yahuah, with its meat offering and with its drink offering for a sweet savor, the bread of the offering unto the master. And eat its meat on that day, and on the second day, and let not the sun on the second day go down upon it till it is eaten. And let nothing be left over for the third day, for it is not acceptable, for it is not approved. And let it no longer be eaten, and all who eat therein will bring sin upon themselves. For thus I have found it written in the books of my forefathers, and in the words of Enoch, and in the words of Noah.
Now take note of that, because there are those who question the writings of Enoch. And there are those who question the writings of Noah. What you mean? Okay. And so here you got confirmation again that Abraham is saying here that he received writings from Enoch and he received writings from Noah. So before the writings that make up Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, which was the writings of Moses, there were writings that were being passed down generationally to these that were inheriting from Abraham and Isaac, and even before him. 11.
And on all thy oblations thou shalt strew salt, and let not the salt of the covenant be lacking in all thy oblations for the master.
Pause. You are the salt of the earth, without which there shall be no seasoning. And if you lose your seasoning, I don't want to butcher that scripture. So it means flavor. It does. Yeah, we the flavor of everything. We know that. Every nation in the world tries to mimic what we do, whether we operate in a righteous capacity or an unrighteous capacity. They mimic it. It don't matter. But there's something else about this salt. You read about it. If you ever read through the study we posted on the Wake Up Jacob website that deals with the covenants. There was salt, and this is in Torah also. It's not just here in Jubilees. There was salt that had to be a part of each one of the covenants that was made. And so if we are likened to salt, then that means that if Yahushua, if we are his body and we are bringing other people into this covenant who attach themselves to us, who are trying to be grafted in, we are salt to them. We are salt to them to be a part of them being a part of this covenant. There must be salt, as he said here, with all of your oblations, thou shalt strew salt, and let not the salt of the covenant be lacking. We the salt. Okay.
And as regards the wood of the sacrifice, beware lest thou bring other wood for the altar in addition to these: cypress, bay, almond, fir, pine, cedar, savon, fig, olive, myrrh, laurel, aspalathus. And all of these kinds of wood lay upon the altar under the sacrifice, such as have been tested as to their appearance. And do not lay therein any split or dark wood, but hard and clean, without fault, a sound and new growth. And do not lay therein old wood, for its fragrance is gone. For there is no longer fragrance in it as before.
Think about like when y'all barbecuing, and y'all go to get that hickory or that cherry wood, and you want to make sure that the fragrance get up in the meat. You're not gonna go get the old wood. You're gonna go get something that's still fragrant,
Still moist.
still got some moisture to it because you want it to smoke.
Yeah.
And if it don't smoke, if it just burn, you're not getting the fragrance up in the food. He's saying the exact same thing. Don't get the old stuff, get the good stuff. We want it to be a sweet savor unto Yahuwah. Same thing. Go ahead.
Besides these kinds of wood, there is none other that thou shalt place on the altar, for the fragrance is dispersed, and the smell of his fragrance goes not up to the heaven. Observe this commandment and do it, my son, that thou mayest be upright in all thy deeds, and at all times be clean in thy body, and wash thyself with water before thou approachest to offer an altar at the altar. And wash thy hands and thy feet before thou drawest near to the altar. And when thou art done sacrificing, wash again thy hands and thy feet. And let no blood appear on you, nor upon your clothes. Be on guard, my son, against blood. Be on thy guard exceedingly. Cover it with dust, and do not eat any blood, for it is the soul.
You went past 16?
Oh.
Yeah, it's okay. So no, you can pick up there. I just want to stop for a second because as we're reading this, like I said, these are exactly the same things that we read about in Leviticus. And you're reading about someone who is performing the duties of the office of the priesthood, saying, I'm getting old, I'm getting ready to pass, and I'm passing the torch on to you. So now here are the details for you and how you are going to perform the duties of this office, which is the priesthood, right? We agree that's what we're reading? Okay, that's all I want to say. Go ahead.
And do not eat any blood, for it is the soul. Eat no blood whatsoever, and take no gifts for the blood of man.
Stop. Read that again.
And take no gifts for the blood of man.
What does that mean?
Don't let nobody bribe you to kill somebody or to don't let nobody bribe you, period, to cover their sins or you know what I'm saying? The blood in your hand.
Okay, go ahead.
Lest it be shed with impunity, without judgment. For it is the blood that is shed that causes the earth to sin. And the earth cannot be cleansed from the blood of men, save by the blood of him who shed it. And take no present or gift for the blood of a man.
He's repeating the same thing.
Remember
we talked about people profiting from someone else's death? Could that be part of what's being said there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Blood for blood, that thou mayest be accepted before the Master, the Most High, Yahuah. For he is the defense of the good, and that thou mayest be preserved from all evil, and that he may save thee from every kind of death. I see, my son, that all the works of the children of men are sin and wickedness, and all their deeds are uncleanliness, and an abomination and a pollution, and there is no righteousness with them. Beware, lest thou should walk in their ways, and tread in their paths, and sin unto death before the Most High Yahuah. Also, he will hide his face from thee, and give thee back unto the hands of thy transgressions, and root thee out of the land, and thy seed likewise from under the heaven. And thy name and thy seed shall perish from the whole earth.
Okay. Mentally, yeah, I would agree. That does sound, it did sound like blood sacrifice to me. I would agree. And what we read here, now he's making a distinction between what he's telling Isaac to do and what the whole world is doing, and saying, make a separation between what I'm telling you to do, because I see what's going on in the earth and it's already been prophesied. You have to hold the fort down. And he's telling them what's going to happen if you don't do this. And it's very reminiscent to me of Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28. Yeah.
I was just reading Josephus, and he was talking about how Nimrod had started this campaign to, to take the esteem from Abiyah. That man as a whole starts believing that it was weak to believe in the Most High. That was a weakness, and he was a coward to believe in the Most High.
That's the same spirit that's being pushed right now.
Nimrod
it's
said,
weak.
Manifest your own destiny.
Yeah. Yeah. Cain. Ain't nothing new under the sun, right? Yep. 23.
Turn away from all their deeds and all their uncleanliness, and observe the ordinance of the Most High Yahuah, and do his will, and be upright in all things. And he will bless thee in all thy deeds, and will raise up from thee a plant of righteousness through all the earth, throughout all the generations of the earth. And my name and thy name shall not be forgotten under the heaven forever.
That's deep. From you, he's going to raise up a plant of righteousness throughout all the earth and throughout all the generations of the earth. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go, my son, in shalom. May the Most High Yahuah, my power and thy power, strengthen thee to do his will. And may he bless all thy seed and the residue of thy seed for the generations forever, for all righteous blessings, that thou mayest be a blessing on all the earth. And he went out from him rejoicing.
Hallelujah. So now it's clear that Abraham felt like Isaac, and Yahuah told him as much. that in Isaac, your seed. So when Yah said to Abraham, I will bless your seed, I was talking about Isaac. So now Abraham is blessing Isaac and his seed. But Isaac got 2 seeds. So which seed is he talking about, right? So let's go to Jubilees 22:1. So we think we know that it's talking about Jacob, but let's confirm. We have to confirm, fam, because what we think we believe is going to be picked apart. It's going to be picked apart. People are going to challenge you on what you say you think you know, and you need to be able to show it. Jubilees 22, let's just start in 1. Go 1 through 6.
Okay. And it came to pass in the first week in the 44th Jubilee, in the 2nd year, that is the year in which Abraham died, that Isaac and Ishmael came from the well of the oath to celebrate the Feast of Weeks. That is the feast of the first fruits of the harvest to Abraham, their father.
So Isaac and Ishmael both came to their father in order to celebrate first fruits. He wasn't dead yet, though. All it's saying is this is the same year that he does die. So Abraham is still alive. They have come to Abraham, both of Abraham's sons, to say, we're here to keep first fruits with you, right?
Sad for a minute.
Well, it's coming. Everything born must die, right? Okay. And so let's see how this plays out, and if it gives us any information about the character of each of his sons, how this first fruits celebration goes.
And Abraham rejoiced because his 2 sons had come.
Mm-hmm.
For Isaac had many possessions in Beersheba.
Mm-hmm.
And Isaac was wont to go and see his possessions and to return to his father.
Mm-hmm.
And in those days, Ishmael came to see his father, and they both came together.
Okay.
And Isaac offered a sacrifice for a burnt offering and presented it at the altar of his father, which he had made in Hebron.
Pause. So that's not so strange. Isaac offered a sacrifice. Well, his father had just given him the law of how to offer sacrifices. So that's not so odd. Okay, let's keep reading.
And he offered a thank offering and made a feast of joy before Ishmael, his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And Rebekah made new cakes from the new grain and gave them to Jacob.
Pause. Who is Rebekah?
Jacob, Esau, and Jacob's mom.
Esau and Jacob's mom. So whose wife is she?
Isaac.
So Isaac made an offering, and Isaac's wife also baked cakes and sent with Isaac as he was going to visit his father for this first fruits offering. Okay, so now you got Ishmael, who came, as it says, came to see his father. That's what it says. Came to see his father during the feast days. See, he was there at the feast days. Remember last night, we was talking about people just kind of being there, but their heart not really being into what's going on. So he showed up, but his other son showed up, participated in the sacrifice, and his household also, even though they weren't even present. She didn't go, but she put her hands in to do the work and sent with her husband something for Abraham. Okay, so I think we see a pattern. Let's keep going.
To take them to Abraham, his father, from the first fruits of the land, that he might eat and bless the creator of all things before he died. And Isaac too sent by the hand of Jacob to Abraham a best thank offering that he might eat and drink.
So now even his son's son. So now you got Isaac, Rebekah, and Jacob all contributing to this. Ishmael just showed up, brought himself. Like, I'm here.
I'm here.
Maybe that's what he said, but we're gonna read whether or not it was gift enough, and whether his father was impressed. I mean, it's funny, but the reality of it is, his father was trying to discern of his children which ones Yahuah was with, and he was able to discern that by his children's actions. Remember, we read that scripture a few weeks back, how even in children you can discern whether or not Yah is with them or whether or not their heart is with Yah. Right? And so we're reading that right here. Go ahead.
And he eat and drink and bless the Most High Yahuah.
Mm-hmm.
who hath created heaven and earth, who have made all things, who have made all the fat things of the earth, and given them to the children of men, that they might eat and drink and bless their creator.
Okay. Torah. I'm looking at their God. That's why I didn't catch it. So I'm gonna give a couple other references as to whether or not he chose, and this is just for y'all personal references. This came up a couple weeks ago, and I was like, man, I need to make sure I get these down. I knew about one of these. These come out of the Quran. So now we looking at whether or not the Heavenly Father chose Ishmael or Jacob before we got to Isaac and I'm sorry, Ishmael, Isaac or Ishmael before we get to Jacob and Esau. So these references come straight from the Quran, which is the holy book that Ishmaelites ascribe to. And in their very own book, let's see what it says. You don't have to try to pull it up. I'll read it out loud. Get it for y'all notes though, because if you having those conversations, it's a hell of a piece of ammunition to have in your chamber. Surah, which is in the Quran, Surah 45 and 16, says, we indeed endowed the children of Israel with the book and the wisdom and prophethood, and provided him with good things as sustenance, and exalted them, Israel, above the peoples of the whole world. Right? So Muhammad saying the Quran was dictated to him by angels, specifically by Gabriel. So the we is talking about the angels in this writing. We endowed the children of Israel with prophecy. So this is saying that the gift of prophecy was given to Israel. When you read the Quran, you don't read no prophecy. There's no other book that is a so-called religious text where you read any prophecy. This is one of the reasons that my eyes was open to truth when I started actually reading it for myself. Surah 29 and 27. Surah 29 and 27 reads, and we bestowed upon him offspring, we still talking about Abraham, like Isaac and Jacob. So that's the subject, Isaac and Jacob, and bestowed prophethood and the book on his descendants, Isaac and Jacob, descendants, and granted him his reward in this world. He will certainly be among the righteous in the hereafter. Surah 2, 122. Surah 2, 122 says, children of Israel, recall my favor which I bestowed upon you. Don't say Ishmael. It's in the Quran. Which I bestowed upon you, and I exalted you above the nations of the world. So that's three witnesses out of their own book, if you're dealing with Ishmael. All right, so now we just read about Abraham blessing Isaac, and we read about what it looked like in the same year that Abraham was coming to the end of his life, when his sons came to visit him, that final first fruits, and he observed how his sons operated. And from that, I believe, if I'm assessing this correctly, he knew already, but it was more confirmation. And he went on and blessed Jacob. So let's read about that. Let's go to chapter 22. And I think we're still in, what was that, Jasher? Jubilees, Torah. Yeah, so Jubilees 22, starting at verse 10. Abraham blesses Jacob. Starting at chapter 10, just go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
And he called Jacob and said, my son Jacob, may the power of all bless thee and strengthen thee to do righteousness and his will before him. And may he choose thee and thy seed, that he may become a people for his inheritance, according to his will always.
May he choose thee and thy seed. Hallelujah. Go ahead.
And do thou, my son Jacob, draw near and kiss me. And he drew near and he kissed him, and he said, blessed be my son Jacob. and all the sons of the Most High unto all the ages. May Yahuah give unto thee a seed of righteousness, and some of thy sons may he sanctify in the midst of the whole earth.
So pause for a second. So I want y'all to really think about what he's saying here in totality. First of all, he's calling Jacob his son, even though that's his grandson. And it puts me in the mind of Genesis 5 when we read about the lineage of Adam, and we don't read certain of Adam's lineage right there. We only read about the ones who follow in this inheritance, in this lineage of what's being inherited here. So here he's skipping clean over Ishmael. I'm sorry.
He doesn't even say Esau was there.
Yeah. So he specifies, this is my son. And now I want you to inherit as my son, right? Okay. And then he says, may some of your sons be set apart. May some of your sons be set apart in the midst of the whole earth. Sound like the nation of Israel. And many nations serve thee. Go ahead.
And be strong in the presence of men, and exercise authority over all the seed of Seth.
Who's Seth?
Seth is the third son of Adam.
Seth is the one who was born after
Abel was murdered.
Abel was murdered. Hallelujah. So he says, over all the seeds of Seth, you exercise authority over. Okay.
Then thy ways and the ways of thy sons will be justified, so that they shall become a set apart nation.
Hallelujah.
May the Most High, Yahuah, give thee all the blessings. Therewith he has blessed me, and wherewith he had blessed Noah and Adam. May they rest in the sacred head of thy seed from generation to generation forever. And may he cleanse thee from all unrighteousness and impurity, that thou mayest be forgiven all the transgressions which thou hast committed ignorantly. And may he strengthen thee and bless thee, and mayest thou inherit the whole earth.
Part of the earth.
The whole earth.
Just Israel.
The whole earth.
Just Jerusalem.
The whole earth.
Okay, so he says that these people will rule over the whole entire earth. Jerusalem, Israel, and Mount Zion is just the seat of that government. Then in the day that Yahushua makes everything right, Israel and Yahuah and Yahushua will rule the entire earth from. But make no mistake about it, the rulership will be over the entire inhabitable earth and uninhabited too. So be it. Okay, go ahead.
And may he renew his covenant with thee, that thou mayest be to him a nation for his inheritance for all the ages.
I love that it says, may he renew his covenant. Go ahead.
And that he may be to thee and to thy seed a power in truth and righteousness throughout all the days of the earth. And do thou, my son Jacob, remember my words and observe the commandments of Abraham thy father. Separate thyself from the nation.
Repeat that, please.
Separate thyself from the nation.
Ooh, one more time.
Separate thyself from the nation.
Family, this is not saying you got to be ignorant, you got to be rude. Don't mean that you got to fight and bicker. Remember, we read that we're supposed to try to live peaceably with all nations. But it does clearly say, separate yourself. What they doing, don't find yourself doing the same things they are doing. That's what's getting us in trouble. That's what Ishmael was doing. That's what Esau was doing. That wasn't looked upon as something good or righteous, right? Go ahead.
And eat not with them.
Don't eat with them. Lead a turkey day to them. Go ahead.
And do not according to their works, and become not their associates.
Don't be associates with them. Go ahead.
And for their works are unclean, and all their ways are pollution and an abomination and uncleanness.
Here's the difference. The difference is if they want to come and associate with you, he gives us, according to Torah, the way in which they can come and sojourn with you. They then become known as sojourners, right? The strangers who sojourn among you are trying to live like you and want to be pleasing in the eyesight of Yah, just like we do. And so they then changed the nature of their previous behavior to match the righteousness that Yah tells us we should be doing. Them it's okay because they come and associate with you. But he's saying, don't you go and associate with them. I don't want you changing your nature to match what they doing. If they change their nature to match what you're doing, all the better, because I'm trying to create man in my image. And I expect you to mirror me so that they can then mirror you. That's the pattern he wants us to follow. Okay, go ahead.
They offer their sacrifices to the dead,
and
they worship evil spirits,
and
they eat over the grave.
Say that one more time.
They eat over the grave.
Somebody put a. I started doing Mr. J. Put a hallelujah 1000. somebody put a 7 or a 1 or whatever in the chat if you have ever heard people eating on graves. Have you ever heard people eating on graves in your lifetime? You heard of that, right? Okay. That's a whole thing down south. But I had never heard of that coming from up north. But now I know people go and party in graveyards. I mean, have a for real, set up tables, balloons, DJs, all that, and have a for real party in a grave, in a cemetery. Okay, again, told out for all of y'all comments. Nothing new under the sun. Everything that you do has already been done. So the origins of that must have been going on way back here, because Abraham told his son, his grandson, look, man, you're going to see them in there eating over graves. Don't you be out there doing that with them. That's completely abominable and unclean. Your food, you taking your food in there with all them unclean spirits roaming in through there with death? No, don't do that. And all the demonic spirits that are attracted to death, don't do that. Okay, go ahead. And all their works.
Okay. And all their works are vanity and nothingness. They have no heart to understand, and their eyes do not see what their works are. And how they err in saying to a piece of wood, thou art my power. And to a stone, thou art my master, and thou art my deliverer. And they have no hearts. And as for thee, my son Jacob, may the Most High Yahuah help thee, and the power of the heaven bless thee, and remove thee from their uncleanness and from all their error. Be thou aware, my son Jacob, of taking a wife from any seed of the daughters of Canaan. For all his seed is to be rooted out of the earth. Pause
for a second. Occulti, I see a question. Don't let us forget when we get to the end of the study, and we can talk about that. That's an excellent question about the repass. Don't let us forget. Okay, go ahead.
For owing to the transgressions of Ham, Canaan erred, and all his seed shall be destroyed from all the earth, and all the residue thereof. And none springing forth from him shall be saved in the day of judgment.
So all Canaan got to go.
Dang.
That's what it says. 22.
And as for all the worshipers of idols and the profane, there shall be no hope for them in the land of the living. And there shall be no remembrance of them on the earth. For they all shall descend into Sheol, and into the place of condemnation shall they go. As the children of Sodom were taken away from the earth, so will all those who worship idols be taken away. Fear not, my son Jacob, and do not be dismayed, O son of Abraham. May the Most High Yahuah preserve thee from the destruction, and from all the paths of error may he deliver thee. This house have I built for myself, that I might put my name upon it in the earth. It is given to thee and to thy seed forever, and it will be named the house of Abraham. It is given to thee and to thy seed forever, for thou wilt build my house and establish my name before Yahuah forever. Thy seed and thy name will stand throughout all generations of the earth.
You ever heard that saying, as above, so below? Most people look at that as an esoteric Masonic thing, but You pray that when you pray. Toda, may your will be done. So we read it as it is in heaven. So it is on earth. So actually, the way we say it is on earth as it is in heaven. But the way you said it is the accurate way. As it is in heaven, so on earth. We read last night in Zechariah chapter 6, I think, and Zechariah chapter 3, a physical priest named Yahushua being crowned to rule over the house of Yah. Here's a mirror image in the same way of a house in the earth for Abraham, with Jacob's descendants to build this house and to lift up the name of Abraham in the earth. The same way Yahuah is having a house built that the nation of Israel and that his son, Yahushua, is building and lifting up, right? So again, we're looking at these parallel things. So as it is in heaven, so on earth, right? Okay, go ahead.
And he ceased commanding him and blessing him. And the two lay down together on one bed, and Jacob slept in the bosom of Abraham, his father's father. And he kissed him 7 times. And his affection and his heart rejoiced over him. And he blessed him with all his heart and said, the Most High, Yahuah, the power of all and creator of all, who brought me forth from Ur of the Chaldeans, that he might give me this land to inherit it forever, and that I might establish a set apart seed blessed by the Most High forever. He blessed Jacob and said, my son, over whom with all my heart and my affection I rejoice, may thy grace and thy mercy be lifted up upon him and upon his seed always. And do not forsake him, nor set him at naught from henceforth unto the days of eternity. And may thy eyes be opened upon him and upon his seed, that thou mayest preserve him and bless him, and mayest set him apart as a nation for thy inheritance, and bless him with all thy blessings from henceforth unto all the days of eternity, and renew thy covenant and thy grace with him and with his seed according to all thy good pleasure unto all the generations of the earth.
Hallelujah. So they go to sleep. It's the middle of the night, and by the time Jacob wakes up, if you was to continue reading here, hey, hallelujah, Shabbat Shalom. Everybody say Shabbat Shalom to Koti Gabor's sister. Welcome to the fellowship.
Shabbat Shalom, Koti. Tomorrow. Okay.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And so if you were to continue reading, Abraham passes in his sleep. And Jacob is distraught, obviously. He goes and gets his father, and Ishmael and them come, and they weep over their father, and they wind up burying their father. Here's the thing, right? Just to look at this from a bird's eye perspective. Some who don't necessarily believe in the Bible may say that, of course, the writers of this book bend all of this to look like it's all about Isaac and it's all about Jacob. They was the good son. But in the Quran, Ishmael wasn't a bad son. And there was other prophets in the Quran, and Muhammad was another prophet and all that. We read here that Ishmael did not decide to go and study with Shem and with Noah. We read here that Ishmael, when he came to the first fruits celebration, he kind of came with nothing in his hands, just brought himself to the party.
That's what
Yeah. And so, yeah, exactly. And so there seems to be a character trait that is somewhat flawed with Ishmael. And then we read the prophecy that Yah told Jacob's mother, Jacob's mother, Isaac, and saying that there's two nations at war in your womb. We read about that last week. And that the elder should serve the younger, and how as they were fighting in the womb, one came out first, but the other one was holding right on to his heel. And his name actually means supplanter. We talked about that last week, right? And so some may say, like, all of this is written like this so that it fits. But when you look at what happened in their lifetime, if you look at the historical accounts of what happened, it's like what Yah wanted to happen, happened. So we get ready to read about Esau selling his birthright. Yah said it was going to happen, that the elder should serve the younger. One struggled to come out first. And you could say, well, let's say the other son came out first. Would then Esau have been the one? Well, what was the nature of their personalities? You know what I'm saying? Let's read about Esau selling his birthright. Because I think y'all got it right. And I think that if we try to get too deep into trying to figure out, well, what if this and what if that, we can confuse ourselves. But when you read about their personalities, it's pretty clear that y'all just called it before it happened, which is beautiful, because that's how you know that he is who he is, because he is the self-existing and the one that can tell you what's happening before it happened. Again, you don't get that in any other books. So let's pick up in the book of Genesis, chapter 25. The book of Genesis, chapter 25, and let's read about Esau. If it wasn't already a done deal, if we didn't already get it from Abraham, already having now blessed Jacob, well, the confirmation comes when Esau give it up on his own. Be like, you can have it. Just another nail in the coffin, you know? Genesis 25, 29 through 34.
And Jacob cooked the stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. And Esau said to Jacob, please feed me with the same red stew, for I am weary. Mm-hmm. That is why his name was called Edom. So
his name was Esau, nicknamed Edom, because he had an affinity for this lentil stew. That, you know, lentils come in a couple different colors, but red is one of the colors of lentils. I know some say that it was bloody. And it may say that in one of the translations, I don't know, but in most of the translations I read, it say it was lentil. Okay, go ahead.
And Jacob said, sell me your birthright today. And Esau said, look, I am going to die anyway. Mm-hmm. So why should I have a birthright? Mm-hmm. Then Jacob said, swear to me today. And he swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. Jacob then gave Esau bread and a stew of lentils, and he ate and drank and rose up and left. Mm-hmm. Thus Esau despised his birthright.
Hallelujah. So thus Esau despised his birthright. Short and simple, right? Nope. It was more to it. There was more to it than that. Question is, why is it that Esau said he was going to die? And why would he sell his birthright for some lentil stew? Like, that's dumb, right? So we're reading birthright, but we should be thinking inheritance. If your family in this day and age left you an inheritance and you went to the restaurant and said, let me get some of that. I know you got soup like Soup Nazi from the episode of Seinfeld. I know you got soup good like the Soup Nazi. Is that good? Give me no, I need your birthright. Man, look, I was born to die. You can have it. Give me some of that soup. You can have my inheritance.
Oh, you talking that Yahuah?
That's dumb.
Well, give me some of that soup.
Right. So why did he say he was going to die, and why did he sell his birthright for some stew? Let's read it from Jasher. Let's start at Jasher chapter 27, verse 1. Jasher chapter 27, verse 1. Yeah. Start there. I'll let you know when to start.
And Esau at the time, after the death of Abraham, frequently went into the field to hunt. And Nimrod, king of Babel, the same was
Amraphel.
Amraphel.
So remember, that was one of the other names of Nimrod. When we read about Abraham going to get Lot and fighting all of those kings and some of those Nephilim of those other nations, it listed Amraphel as one of those kings. Nimrod was there.
Amraphel is that deity that speaks to that woman. What's her name? J.K.
That was Jay-Z Knight.
Jay-Z Knight.
It was Ramtha.
Ramtha. Oh, Ramtha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's close.
Yeah.
And it may be a derivative of the same name. There's no telling. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Also frequently went with his mighty men to hunt in the field and to walk about with his men in the cool of day. And Nimrod was observing Esau all the days, for a jealousy was formed in the heart of Nimrod against Esau all the days.
Pause right there for a second. We already established that Ishmael was like Nimrod. We did. That was just Esau? Yes, he was. He was a man that liked to hunt. He lived by the boat. Ishmael too?
Ishmael was a wild man.
A wild man.
Just Esau was the hunter.
His hand against every man and every man's hand against him.
That's Ishmael.
That's Ishmael. Those are characteristics of Nimrod as well. So I'm mistaken. You're right. I'm mistaken about him being specifically linked with hunting. But Ishmael was linked with being a wild man like Nimrod. Ishmael maybe hadn't gotten to that point yet, but his descendants are a warlike people, is what is being said. Nimrod was a warmongering individual, and Esau was similar. And so there was something about Esau that Nimrod was like, I need to watch this one, right? And that's what this is saying. So let's continue.
Don't forget, there was always a prophecy that the seed of Abraham was going to take him out.
That's true. Okay.
And on a certain day, Esau went in the field to hunt. And he found Nimrod walking in the wilderness with his two men and all his mighty men, and his people were with him in the wilderness. But they removed at a distance from him, and they went from him in different directions to hunt. And Esau concealed himself from Nimrod. He lurked for him in the wilderness.
Folks, he did what? He lurked. He lurked for him. So in my notes here, if y'all see it on the screen, I say, remember the characteristics of that other priesthood we talked about? The one that some people call the priesthood of Mahan, those who seek to murder for gain. Okay. So what was he going to stand to gain? Standing around and waiting on Nimrod and his men so that he could hunt him. Let's read about it.
And Nimrod and his men that were with him did not know him. And Nimrod and his men frequently walked about in the field at the cool of the day, and to know where his men were hunting in the field. And Nimrod and two of his men were with him came to the place where they were, when Esau startled suddenly from his lurking place and drew his sword and hastened and ran to Nimrod and cut off his head.
So it says Esau started suddenly. From all it means, he licked out. He was lurking, hunting him, tracking him because he was also a mighty hunter, right? But he was hunting a man. We just read Abraham telling the son that he knew he was passing these blessings off to. He said, listen, don't take gifts for blood, right? Especially when you're dealing with me. Don't take gifts for blood. And so this man is hunting a man, leaps out, cuts Nimrod's head clean off his shoulders. Then what happens?
And Esau fought a desperate fight with the two men that were with Nimrod. And when they called out to him, Esau turned to them and smote them to death with his sword. And all the mighty men of Nimrod who had left him to go to the wilderness heard the cry at a distance. And they knew the voices of those two men, and they ran to know the cause of it. And when they found their king and the two men that were with him lying dead in the wilderness. And when Esau saw the mighty men of Nimrod coming at a distance, he fled and thereby escaped. And Esau took the valuable garments of Nimrod.
Oh, okay.
Which Nimrod's father had bequeathed to Nimrod.
Okay.
And with whom Nimrod prevailed over the whole land.
And with which?
And with which Nimrod prevailed over the whole land, and he ran and concealed them in his house.
All right. Wow. Let us know what are those garments? What are those garments?
Garments of Adam and Eve.
Those are the garments of Adam and Eve that were passed down generationally to who?
Supposed to be to Shem.
They were passed to Noah.
Noah.
And Noah was supposed to pass them to Shem, but somebody stole them and gave them to Nimrod. And it said, with these garments, Coach Latasha had a question about that. It said, with these garments, he did what? Prevailed over the whole land. And so now Esau got them garments. So what he was hunting this man for? For gain. For gain. He was hunting this man, cut his head off, stole those garments, ran, and did what? Hid him in his house. Go ahead, verse 11.
And Esau took those garments and ran into the city on account of Nimrod's men.
Mm-hmm.
He came into his father's house wearied and exhausted from flight.
Uh-huh.
And he was ready to die through grief when he approached his brother Jacob and sat before him.
Stop right there. Now you got it backwards. So at the time you read in Genesis, Nimrod, not Nimrod, but Nimrod's protege, okay, runs into his brother, and it says he was wearied and exhausted from fight, and he was ready to die through grief. He thought they was finna get him. He's like, I don't know if I'm gonna see tomorrow. I know I got what I came for. I stashed him. I don't know if I'm gonna let him see tomorrow. And he said he approaches his brother and sat before him. Now, we're gonna read this again from Jubilees because we're gonna add one more thing to this mix as far as what was going on. Let's go to Jubilees 24. I'll read 2 through 7. I know. It's high drama, ain't it?
Hot thickens.
Yeah. High drama.
You said 2 through 7?
Yep. Jubilees chapter 24, verses 2 through 7. Whenever you're ready.
And in the first year of the 4th week, a famine began in the land, besides the first famine, which had been in the days of Abraham.
Uh-huh.
And Jacob sowed lentil pottage, and Esau came from the field hungry.
Pause. We read about these two sons. One son was a hunter, one son was a tiller and a sower of the land. And so, like the ants and the bees, Jacob, being a wise man, keeping the laws of his mother and father, is doing what he had to do to still be able to eat. There's a famine in the land. To add to the fact that there's a famine in the land, Esau out there trying to hunt because it's a famine in the land. Nimrod and his people out there trying to hunt because it's a famine in the land. They both on the lookout for each other because Nimrod done heard about Esau. Esau done heard about Nimrod. And in the middle of them hunting, he like, oh, there go Nimrod. And I'm already hungry and I ain't got nothing to lose. And if I take him out, I might be able to run it all.
And the devil told me right here.
And the devil is a lie.
God.
And so, go ahead.
And Esau came from the field hungry, and he said to Jacob his brother, give me of this red pottage.
Mm-hmm.
And Jacob said to him, sell to me thy birthright, and I will give thee bread and also some of this lentil pottage.
I'll give you bread too.
And Esau,
how bad you want it?
And Esau said in his heart, I shall die. Of what profit to me is this birthright?
So now we know two things. We know why Esau said, I'm finna die anyway. I might as well get some of that. We also know why it was a big deal to Jacob. Because Jacob is like, now I've done the work for this. You've been out there doing whatever it is you do. I put in time, effort, and did all the things I was supposed to do. And here you come in at the last minute saying, let me get some of that, what you done worked in the midst of famine to be able to eat and sustain yourself. You want it. How much is it worth to you? How much is it worth to you? I've been diligently doing my father's business. You've been out there doing everything else, and now you want to come eat
And
my
that's
food.
probably because he told him, they brothers. So he probably always on like, you always messing up, man.
In the same way that we read about Cain and Abel's conversation, where he was like, how is it that you get the blessing here and you offered this, and I brought an offering too. Why was your offering better than mine? You fed your flocks off my land. I should get this. You know what I'm saying? And so they had a very similar skirmish. I don't want to misquote what they said, so I'm gonna leave it at that. But yeah, we talked about that. Yeah, he laid in wait for him. That's exactly what he did. Okay, let's pick it up from there. Go ahead.
And Jacob gave his brother Esau bread. Oh, wait. And he said to Jacob, I give it to thee. And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he swore unto him. And Jacob gave his brother Esau bread and pottage, and he eat till he was satisfied. Mm-hmm. And Esau despised his birthright. Mm. For this reason was Esau named called Edom, on account of the red pottage which Jacob gave him for his birthright. So it was almost like a mockery, right? You gave up your inheritance because of your bad decisions and your need to come in and get this red pottage. And for that reason, he was called Edom. And you just showed us other ways that he despised his birthright, because whilst Jacob was doing the work, coming to the feast with Abraham, to be there to send out the last priest, kind of like a sign of respect. Yeah. Esau was out doing, whatever Esau do. You know what I'm saying? You're right. He never wanted to do the work for it. Yep, you are 100% right. Yeah. That is despising your birthright. When you have an inheritance, but you don't want to work to take care of the inheritance, and you don't want to put forth any of your own blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that it is in good shape, you are despising your inheritance. Somebody else might as well come and take it over. You don't want it. You're not showing by your work. Faith without works is dead. You're not showing by your work that it means anything to you. The job had to be done, and Jacob did it. And so somebody who it does mean something to did it. Okay. And so keep going. Last part of this. And the famine over the land. Okay. And Jacob became the elder. And Esau was brought down from his dignity. So he had or should have had a dignity, but in this one fell swoop, he was brought down from that dignity. Let's go to Joshua 27. And you're going to hit 12 through 14. Joshua chapter 27, verses 12 through 14. And he said unto his brother Jacob, behold, I shall die this day. And wherefore then do I want the birthright? And Jacob acted wisely with Esau in this matter. Mm-hmm. And Esau sold his birthright to Jacob, for it was so brought about by the master. Now, if you wasn't sure, this was all what the Heavenly Father allowed to happen in this way. Esau had to make his own decisions. It's not that he didn't have choice in the matter, but Yahuah knew what his choices were going to be. And what's that scripture say? Before I formed you in the womb, I have known. So in the day that he gained the devil's kingdom, he lost the Most High. Sad irony for you. You made your decision on that day. When you killed a man for gain, right? But see, the thing is, like, it was already building up. So the physical act had already been in his heart and on his mind. You just committed that final act to go ahead and seal your fate, which is what Yah already knew when he told his mother, man, it's two completely different types of people in your room. Whether you can fathom that or not. It's two completely different types of people. Listen, it shouldn't be that big of a stretch, because all of these people that we're reading about came from Noah, and Noah was a righteous individual, right? And then we read about Shem, and then we read about all these different people that came from Shem, and Shem was a righteous individual. So it should be no wonder, and it shouldn't be a stretch for us to understand that
two different types of people can come from the exact same womb. In the womb at the same time, right? We're going to eventually get to a point where you start to read about, even among the nation of Israel, there are some who just are a different nature of people, even though they are still bloodline Israel, right? And so by birth don't really mean anything. It gives you entry if that's what your makeup is, but it don't necessarily mean that you're going to choose your birthright, right? And so that's what we're seeing examples of here. Go ahead and pick up from 13.
And Esau's portion is the cave of the field of Mount Heth, which Abraham had bought from the children of Heth for the possession of a burial ground.
Machpelah.
Esau also sold to Jacob, and Jacob bought all this from his brother Esau for value given.
Here's a little bit more than what we read in the KJV. Not only did he sell him his birthright for the red stew, but when it comes to all of this that we're talking about here, he actually paid him its value. So for all of the people who feel like Yahuah, I'm gonna say Yahuah because there's this doctrine of the big head scientist Yahuah, and all of his wicked creations and his wicked designs, and how he was a trickster, right? And there's a reference to what happens when Jacob, when Isaac blesses Jacob, and they say, well, he tricked him. That's how we got it. Well, he sold it right here. So for Esau to even try to come to his father when his father was going to hand out the blessing and say, oh, here I am, the firstborn son, but you forgot you sold that already? Who trying to trick who, right? But there are some who call Jacob the trickster. You understand what I'm saying? And so if you think he's a trickster, here we're reading here that even for the rest of the stuff that he got from Esau, it says he gave him its value for it, in addition to the red stew and the bread. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
And Jacob wrote the whole of this in a book, and he testified the same with witness, and he sealed it, and the book remained in the hands of Jacob. And when Nimrod...
Pause there for a second. So, y'all reading about the reason why, and I just want to give you this for your notes. In Malachi 1, 2, and 3, we read, I have loved Jacob, but I have hated Esau. You're reading the why. You're reading the why. I gave you this as, and look at Jacob and Esau as you and I. I'm not saying comparing you and I. I'm saying I should be looking at Jacob and Esau as myself. You should be looking at Jacob and Esau as yourself and asking yourself with your many daily decisions, as my father used to always tell me, life is about choices. How many decisions and choices do you make in one day, right? And we need to be asking ourselves as we make our many decisions, am I choosing like Jacob or am I choosing like Esau, right? Because the reason he hates Esau is because Esau had the opportunity to partake in the birthright and he despised it. And that's why he says, Jacob I have loved, Esau I have hated. That's why he says it. All right, let's go to Genesis 26 and 1. I'm gonna read about the promise being made directly to Isaac at this point. More confirmations, right? 26 and 1, 1 through 5.
There was a scarcity of food in the land besides the first scarcity of food, which was in the days of Abraham.
Okay.
And Isaac went to Abimelech, sovereign of the Philistines in Gerar.
Remember last time we talked about Abimelech? I was making reference to Abi and Melech being a two-part word. Abi, father, Melech, ruler. So I looked into that a little bit more, and among the Philistines, Abimelech was a title given to whoever was on the throne of the Philistines at the time. And there also may have been a connection with who the Philistines worshipped as far as their deity, saying that, in other words, saying that This is a divine father over the Philistine nation. And yes, the Philistines, if you're thinking about it, if you're wondering, was one of those nations who did mix in with the Nephilim. So some of what they was worshiping and why we always had issues with the Philistines is probably why it's probably attached to, this title. But anyway, I digress. Go ahead.
And Yahuah appeared to him and said, do not go down to Mizraim. Live in the land which I command you. Sojourn in this land, and I shall be with you and bless you and give all these lands to you and your seed. And I shall establish an oath which I swore to Abraham your father.
Pause. Now, I don't know. Are you looking at my notes on your screen or are you just reading from your scriptures? Okay. So I just want you to read 2 and 3 again, because we get emphasis here to something that Red was making a point about. I don't remember what we was. I don't know if it was a study in scriptures conversation or what, but reread that again one more time, 2 and 3.
And Yahuah appeared to him and said, do not go down to Mizraim. Live in the land which I command you.
Okay, pause. Why would he have to tell Jacob in the event of a famine, a scarcity of food in the land? Why would he have to tell Jacob, don't go to Egypt?
Because we always went to Egypt. Egypt was like the super city. So anytime you needed something, you couldn't find it nowhere, you go to Egypt.
So it's a knee-jerk reaction. Every time there was a problem, you had scarcity of food, you could go into Egypt. So he said, don't do that. Then he says, do what?
Stay here. Stay in the land which I commanded you.
But why?
Sojourn in this land, and I shall be with you and bless you. And I give all these lands to you and your seed.
All what lands?
Canaan.
Okay. Hallelujah.
And I shall establish an oath which I swore to Abraham your father.
Hallelujah. So I just want to make a reference that although it don't mention Egypt in that particular scripture right there, it's included. Canaan and all that land, Egypt as well, was included, as Red was making reference to, as lands that we were very familiar with, and lands that he also said, I'm giving you this land. I'm giving you this land right here. Don't go over there. I want you to secure this right here. Egypt is included in that. Egypt is also a place that we were very familiar with. And here's one of the references, because he's telling him, I know you're used to going over there. I know you're familiar with those people over there, but don't go over there right now. I need to do something with you here. And it's involved in the Bible. Let's keep reading.
And I shall increase your seed like the stars of the heavens. And I shall give all these lands to your seed. And in your seed, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and guarded my charge, my commands, my law, and my Torah.
Hallelujah. Let's go to Jasher. And I think it's beautiful that, remember I said, I like how when Abraham was blessing Jacob, he said, renew your covenant with him. Well, that's what we just witnessed. He took the covenant he made with Abraham and the covenant he made with Isaac, and now he's renewing that covenant directly with Jacob, right? And he does it again with us through Ha MashiYahch. Oh, Isaac. Okay. That's what it was, though. He said, renew your covenant with Isaac. I apologize. Jasher, Torah for the correction. 28 and 3. Just go ahead, start from there.
And Isaac rose up and went to the rear, as the master commanded him. And he remained there for a year. And when Isaac came to the rear, the people of the land saw that Rebekah, his wife, was of a beautiful appearance. And the people of the rear asked Isaac concerning his wife. And he said, she is my sister. For he was afraid to say she was his wife, lest the people of the land should slay him on account of her. And the princes of Abimelech went and praised the woman to the king. When he answered them not, neither did he attend to their words. But he heard them say that Isaac declared her to be his sister. So the king reserved this within himself.
Ain't that something? Sound familiar, though? Go ahead.
And when Isaac had remained 3 months in the land, Abimelech looked out the window and he saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah, his wife.
Cain, Koti Gabor. Yeah.
For Isaac dwelt in the outer house belonging to the king, so that the house of Isaac was opposite the house of the king. And the king said unto Isaac, what is this thou hast done to us in saying of thy wife, she is my sister?
So when it says he was sporting with her, it wasn't like a brother playing with a sister. Okay.
How easily might one of the great men of the people have lain with her, and thou wouldst then have brought guilt upon us. And Isaac said to Abimelech, because I was afraid lest I die on account of my wife thereof, I said, she is my sister.
So Abimelech wasn't a simple man. He had some wisdom about it. Go ahead, let's see what he does.
At that time, Abimelech gave orders to all his princes and great men, and they took Isaac and Rebekah his wife and brought them before the king. And the king commanded that they should dress them in princely garments and make them ride through the streets of the city and proclaim before them throughout the land, saying, this is the man and this is his wife. Whoever touches this man or his wife shall surely die. And Isaac returned with his wife to the king's house, and the master was with Isaac, and he continued to wax great and lacked for nothing.
So he knew enough to put his stamp on protecting his wife from being assaulted in order to preserve his land. We're going to read why. Go ahead.
And the master caused Isaac to find favor in the sight of Abimelech and in the sight of all his subjects. And Abimelech acted well with Isaac. For Abimelech remembered the oath and the covenant that existed between his father and Abraham.
Hallelujah. Y'all remember that? Abimelech, this same Abimelech, made a covenant with Abraham.
His father. His father passed, but he remembered.
That's what I said. Wait, did I say something different?
You said this same Abimelech made a covenant with Abraham.
Oh, it's not the same Abimelech?
Yeah, it was Abimelech, his father.
And Abimelech remembered the oath and the covenant that existed between his father and, oh, you're right, hallelujah. Right, because I said that it's a title, Cain, which was a beautiful thing. And so, again, Yahuah preserved Isaac in that land. Go ahead.
And Abimelech said unto Isaac, behold, the whole earth is before thee. Dwell wherever it may seem good in thy sight, until thou shalt return to thy land. And Abimelech gave Isaac fields and vineyards in the best part of the land of Gerar, to sow and reap and eat the fruits of the ground until the days of the famine should have passed by. And Isaac sowed in that land and received 100-fold in the same year. And the master blessed him. And the man waxed great, and he had possession of flocks and possession of herds and great stores of servants. And when the days of the famine had passed away, the master appeared to Isaac and said unto him, rise up and go forth from this place and return to thy land, to the land of Canaan. And Isaac rose up and returned to Hebron, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all belonging to him, as the master had commanded him.
Hallelujah. So we see he put his faith in Yah, and we see what Yah did. All right, go ahead with 17.
And after this, Shelach, the son of Arpachshad, died in that year, which is the 18th year of the lives of Jacob and Esau. And all the days that Shelach lived were 433 days, and he died.
Now, Arpachshad stands out to me because that is the one that we read about that found the writings after the flood.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Yeah, and kept them secretly from Noah because there were writings that was part of the reason that the world was flooded. Okay, but go ahead.
At that time, Isaac sent his younger son Jacob to the house of Shem and Eber, and he learned the instructions of the master. And Jacob remained in the house of Shem and Eber for 32 years.
32 years of instruction in the house of Shem and Eber by Jacob at this point. So Isaac sends his son off to school.
Which is in the mountains.
Which is in the mountains.
So 32 years of that mystery teaching.
You talk about some higher learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
just digging in. I need you to and they got all of the writings and all of the scrolls, and you're gonna get this work.
You'll get this work.
But the beautiful thing is he wanted to work. Now imagine Esau going and not really wanting to be there. Right? You're gonna find every sort of distraction and every other thing in the world, and then be running around with some serious information, but not know what to do. Right? Okay.
He was okay.
And Esau.
And in Esau, his brother did not go. Well, he was not willing to go.
Not that he couldn't go.
He just didn't want to go.
Did not choose to go. So yet again, you've made another choice that you don't want this. Okay.
And he remained in his father's house in the land of Canaan.
Mm-hmm.
And Esau was continually hunting in the fields to bring home what he could get.
Mm-hmm.
So did Esau all the days. And Esau was a designing and deceitful man who had hunted after the hearts of men and embellished them.
Okay, pause. I had to look that one up. Say, what does inveigled mean? Inveigled. But here's a thought, though. Just thinking about why Esau may not have wanted to go. Esau got a new toy.
Right.
Esau got a new toy. I look, I want to play with this toy. I hear what y'all saying, but I need to see what this is about. I've already made.
Teenager when he killed Nimrod?
We read.
There we go back.
Did we read that in Joshua Jubilees?
I can't remember.
I'm going back. Because we flip between Joshua and Jubilees, and sometimes, see, Jubilees. Okay, we read that from Joshua. It doesn't give us age. Let's see if it does. Esau at the time of the death of Abraham. See if I see an age, y'all. Give me a second. I don't know, man. And I don't want to misquote because, as you can see, I can misquote some. Ribbed and caught me a couple times already just here today. But just because we read that he was 18 at the beginning of that writing, don't mean he was 18 at the end of that same series of events, because we span time sometimes. Could have been. I'm not saying he wasn't. I'll have to look at that a little bit more closely. By the time we finish reading this passage, he 40. So, but anyway, inveigled, past tense, past participle, to persuade someone to do something by means of deception or flattery. We cannot inveigle him into putting pen to paper. Obviously, similar to cajoling, to gain entrance to a place by persuading someone with deception or flattery. Jones had inveigled himself into the house.
That's very devilish. Devil, get people to flattery.
Interesting you said that, because I posted here Genesis 3:1. And the Nahash was more crafty than all the lives of the field which Yahuah Elohim had made. So if you look at that word crafty, so that's in the Hebrew scriptures, that's H6191. The meaning of that word, that is arum, means cunning in a bad sense, crafty, prudent, subtle. So this is saying, again, that Esau had the same spiritual characteristics as the adversary. The spirit that was on him was that same spirit. Same character traits, okay? And Esau was a valiant man. Verse 20. You left off verse 20.
And Esau was a valiant man in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And in the course of time went as usual to hunt. And he came as far as the field of Seir, the same as Edom. And he remained in the land of Seir, hunting in the field 1 year and 4 months. Oh my goodness.
Mm.
And Esau there saw in the land of Seir the daughter of a man of Canaan.
It's a savage dude.
And her name was Jehudith,
Mm-hmm.
the daughter of Beri,
Mm-hmm.
son of Ephraim, from the families of Heth, the son of Canaan.
Mm-hmm.
And Esau took her for a wife.
They didn't took him a Canaanite wife.
And he came unto her. He wasn't there what Abraham said. So, yeah, he wasn't there for that.
This has been a running theme for generations. Leave them Canaanites alone. He knew.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't care. Go ahead. But there's something about them Canaanite women. Something about them Canaanite women that kept attracting these men, and so did the Philistinian women.
Mm-hmm. And Esau took for a wife, and he came unto her.
Mm-hmm.
40 years old was Esau when he took her. And he brought her to Hebron, the land of his father's dwelling place, and he dwelt there. And it came to pass in those days, in the 110th year of the life of Isaac, that in the 50th year of the life of Jacob, in that year died Shem, the son of Noah.
So you just read that he was 40 when he took her. He was in the field hunting for a year and a half, and just a few verses up, you read he was 18. So that's what I'm saying, like sometime in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So died Shem, the son of Noah.
Mm-hmm.
Shem was 600 years old at his death.
Cain and Coach Kimberly. Love him some foreign women. I apologize.
I
apologize. I didn't mean to cut you off.
And when Shem died, Jacob returned to his father to Hebron, which is in the land of Canaan.
Mm-hmm.
And in the 56th year of the life of Jacob, people came from Haran, and Rebekah was told concerning her brother Laban of the son of Bethuel.
Mm-hmm.
For the wife of Laban was barren in those days and bore no children.
Mm-hmm.
And also all his handmaids bare none to him.
See, I remember who Laban is.
Rebekah's brother.
Laban is Rebekah's brother. And Laban's wife ain't having any children. And so now everybody's sending out saying, same thing we were just talking about in the video. Hey, pray for her. They ain't had no children. Her handmaids ain't had no children. And Laban household just looking dried up right now.
None of Laban's soldiers swimming.
Go ahead.
For the wife of Laban was iron. And the master afterward remembered Adonah, the wife of Laban, and she conceived and bare twin daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And Laban called the names of his daughters, the name of the elder Leah,
Mm-hmm.
and the name of the younger Rachel.
Mm.
And those people came and told these things to Rebekah, and Rebekah rejoiced greatly that the master had visited his brother and that he had gotten children.
So
wow.
now,
twins.
So they, oh, actually, I didn't catch that either.
Wow.
Hallelujah.
Married twins.
So, but here's the thing. We read about the wife being barren up until right about the time that her son was going to need a wife,
Yeah.
right? And so why you think Rebekah is rejoicing? Because she didn't want her son marrying one of them Canaanite women,
Right.
but her brother was barren up until that. Her brother's wife was barren up until that point.
Yeah.
So now maybe, I'm theorizing a little bit, maybe part of the reason why she was overly rejoiced. I mean, not to say that she wasn't happy just for the sake of her brother, but I think that was part of the reason.
Esau had already married Canaan. No, Rebekah thought of them.
Cain, absolutely. So next week, fam, we're going to pick up with Isaac blessing Jacob and how that enrages Esau and how Esau promises that he's going to kill his brother. And we're going to talk a little bit about how prophetic that is, looking at today and what's going on today, and how Jacob flees to the house of Laban. So we're going to wrap it up there, fam. That's what we got for today. Hallelujah, and Todah for tuning in. And hallelujah. Okay. Any questions? I know we had a question from Coach Kimberly.
This thing be over too quick.
Blaine Rare says, she said, keep it short.
Wow.
She told me keep it at an hour.
I did not. Oh, dog, don't believe him, y'all. It wasn't me.
No, it helps. It does, because this is about 10 pages of notes. This is about 10 pages of notes for me. That's a good length for me to put together on a weekly basis and not be, too much and overbearing for me. And it's also, so of course y'all not falling asleep, I know, but my children fall asleep, and I can see in the I don't know if y'all heard that snoring in the background. As I said, I can look on YouTube at the analytics, right? And the analytics on YouTube tell us how long people watch a video before they tune out. They may come back. I'm not saying they don't come back, but the average time that I see the people tune in to a video, I think the longest maybe about 15 minutes. You know what I'm saying? But you coming in 5-10 minutes at a time when people watch the YouTube video. And so, if it's that hard to get people to tune in consistently for 10 to 15 minutes, an hour, 2 hour, 3, 4, 5 hour video, which I know some people do. We've done 2, 3, 4 hour videos. It's just, I don't know how many people get to the end of a 5 or 6 hour video, unless, it's one of y'all. I know y'all do. Coty Kimberly, can you come up to the mic with your question? So everybody can hear it. I thought it was was that you, Kimberly? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it was. My question was when we were talking about people taking food to the grave. Like I ain't never heard of that before, but I do know, once you leave the grave site, you do a repast. Sometimes it's at a church, sometimes it's at the house, sometimes it's at the funeral home. But I was wondering if that was kind of like the same thing.
Yeah, like I say, excellent question. That's okay. Here, let's deal with the literal first. Literally in a grave, it's literally in a grave. Around that grave, like I say, you have certain spirits that are attracted to death. If we physically come into contact with a dead body, whether it's a human or an animal, you're unclean for a period of time, according to Torah. After you bathe and ceremonially cleanse yourself, after the sundown of the day that you cleanse yourself, you will be clean again. But Torah, and what he was telling his son is, don't go to the grave and eat in the graves. He finds that offensive for whatever reason. A repast, the traditional repasts that I'm aware of, aren't in an actual cemetery. They're usually at someone's house or at a, what you call those facilities, about a hall or something like that. And that's where everybody goes. They bring food for the family, or they go to somebody's house and they bring food and they go to the repast. At this day and age, knowing what I know about Torah and scripture, I'm not going to a funeral in a church. I'm just not. That's me. I'm not going in a church because I know what the church represents. But if it's someone close, I may go to the repast if it's at someone's house. You're going to be unclean. It's not a sin to be unclean in that respect, but you will be unclean because you're around all of those people who touched a dead body. When you go home, it's necessary for you to cleanse yourself, and you'll be unclean until sunset that evening. If somebody is doing it at a grave and that's what they're doing, I'm just not going to be there. I'll send my love and condolences to the family, and I just won't be able to make it. If it's my family and it's someone who I have any control over, my mother, my father, I'm not the oldest son of my fathers, but I'm the oldest son of my mother. If I have any kind of control, we're not doing church, and we ain't doing no dancing on no graves. You got to go to the gravesite to bury the body, but we ain't doing no parties. No DJ is gonna be in the graveyard, cemetery. We ain't having ice cream and cake and all that in the cemetery. That's just us.
I know in New Orleans they do a big ritual.
It's a big thing in New Orleans. It is. And like I said, you got to ask yourself, where does that come from? Baron Samedi. So this deity, as you said, but let's ask this as well. If this custom probably came out of Canaan, then was this something that our people picked up? And even though we was brought over on the slave ships, the reason we were brought over and the reason we were dealing with these curses for our disobedience, we still brought some of those, and this is a bigger discussion. Think about this. We were still bringing some of those wicked traditions here with us, even on the slave ships, right? And so every tradition that we could trace back to and say, oh, yeah, our people was doing this when we first got here, don't make it good.
Remember,
some of the stuff we was doing, we was not supposed to be doing.
Remember that clip on American God,
Mm-hmm.
where they have that the only black guy they had, Anansi, who I think is another word, is another name for Baron Samedi.
Maybe.
Or one of his.
Baron Samedi was one of the characters in Bond, if you remember.
Yeah.
Looked like Papa Shango.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Papa Shango is. I think
multiple names for the same deity.
Yeah. But he was talking to the slaves in the slave ship. He was coming over with them from Africa, telling them, like, let me tell you what awaits you on these shores.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And everybody loved that character, and they kicked him off because he had problems with the producers. But everybody loved that character because he was a black character, and they wanted to identify with him and make it like everything he said was good or right because he was the black character and the black god. But he was wicked. Like we gotta recognize now everything black don't necessarily mean good. Another thing, since we mentioned it, so that Baron Samedi character, like I say, you had that character in Bond. He had the top hat. He wore the ivory tusks with the shrunken skull.
Always have a drink.
Had the shrunken skull on his top hat, right? Face painted like some kind of New Orleans. Death skull. Face painted like a skull. Papa Shango, if you was a WWF fan in the 80s or 90s, Papa Shango was that same character. And so I'm only saying that to say they keep giving us these what's the word I'm looking for? Archetypes of these deities in multi forms and fashions, but it's the same. Like, how do they all have the idea for the same character? How do they have the same dress? How do he? Princess and the Frog, the Shadow Man. So that's
Shadow Man worked.
Gotcha. I remember that. Yeah. Yeah. Same difference. Okay. Coty, did you want to add to your question? Shadow Man, okay. Or any thoughts on that? On the answer we gave?
No, I think that's good. I was wondering though about the whole funeral thing because I know you're unclean if you're around a dead body, but I mean I'm not walking into nobody's church no time soon, but given the state that we're in now, it's gonna be a funeral. You know what I'm saying? Unfortunately. So I wasn't sure if that was just something that, wasn't, I don't want to say condoned, but just something that we didn't do or we're not supposed to do, No,
we do. So let me clarify. Good follow-up question. We do, and culturally, it is part of our custom that we did do burials. That's a funeral. I don't care what you call it. What we see in scripture was a cleansing of the body, an anointing of the body, a wrapping of the body in linens, dressing in linens, wrapping it in linens, and then burial. And then there was you could call it a repast in today's, modern terms, but there was a week-long and sometimes weeks-long period of grievance where all the family came together to grieve together. But at the end of that grieving, you must cleanse yourself, ceremonially cleanse yourself from that period of grieving in order for you to be in a state where you could then go back into the camp and amongst the other Israelites and amongst or anywhere near the temple. You couldn't do that and then walk straight into the temple, if that makes sense. It's not a sin, but it is unclean. Does that make sense? There are things we do in our house right now that make us unclean, right? And so if we're eating meat and you got to clean this meat and cook your food, you're unclean for a period, right? A woman in her menstruation is unclean for a period. And anybody who touches anything that she touched, so that means the whole house is unclean for a period. A man and a woman, after they lay together and come together in matrimony, are unclean every time emissions is let loose.
Yes, every time.
Yes, every time. You're unclean for a period until you cleanse yourself. And so when you deal with like people who have these habits that I believe come from Gentile nature, where they don't bathe afterwards, they don't change sheets afterwards and stuff like that, every time you lay on that, you are again unclean. And so a good practice for us, family, is to, and I've read this in several places, a good practice for us would be to try to at least be ceremonially clean as you're entering into the Shabbat, right? And that would mean to refrain from sexual activity. Again, get your cooking done ahead of time, before sundown. You can't do anything in this day and age about menstruation. Back in the day, you're sent out to the log cabin.
To the Hilton. To the luxury cabin.
You're sent out to the hut in the back.
To the
until she was done. No, but you would back in the days, customarily, anyone who had an issue of blood would be separated for that time period so as not to make everybody else unclean. And they wouldn't come to the assembly. They would not come to the assembly if you had an issue of blood. Matter of fact, even if you were just sick, if you had a cold, if you had the flu, any of that stuff, if you had Koti Gaboro, the inflammation. I know Koti will tell y'all all about the inflammation. You wouldn't come into the assembly. You would let somebody know from a distance that you were unclean, even if you may pass them on the streets. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
I can imagine, boy, what the administration retreat looked like at Abraham's house, where he set up for Sarah now. Ooh, I bet you it was nice. He probably had like warm baths and
Abraham was a very wealthy man.
Food and fanboys
and
trays of grapes and cocktails.
Servants and all that.
Oh,
man. Laid her out, decked her out, everything she could want.
Just a week of luxury.
Mm.
Younger women will start there telling them up. The native women, the older native women will build like huts and stuff and make it, comfortable for the younger women.
This native tribe is where?
I don't know. I can't remember the name of the native tribe. Yeah.
Sounds like Hebrew customs.
And then,
sounds like Israelitish customs.
And then during that time, the younger woman, she would stay in a hut and she would be by herself, but the older women would come and check on her.
Tend to her.
Yeah. And if she needed anything, she could leave like an iron on and they'd know she needed something.
Well, y'all need to say something like that.
Yeah. hey, I'll do it. I'll build us a mincy shed.
We're going to have to find a better term than that. Family, y'all got any other comments? Y'all want to add anything on what we just went over? Or peripheral information? It's all good.
So my question or my comment, shall I say, is not so much about what we talked about today, but in the fact that the nation is waking up and having questions about who we are and what we're doing. Could you explain to somebody that's probably listening or, for with the YouTube channel about the importance of the name of the Most High and the Messiah? I was having a discussion with someone and they couldn't understand why Jesus or the name of Jesus shouldn't be said. They think that the name Jesus is a English interpretation of the Messiah or the Most High, or God. So I just wanted you to elaborate on that a little bit, if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I get Rib and Indigo to find me the place where in the New Testament the name Jesus is inadvertently transposed with Joshua, where it should read one, but it actually reads the other. Can I get one of y'all to get that for me, please? So here's the thing.
Thank you, because I couldn't find it last night, but I was trying to explain that the Jesus was an interpretation from Joshua, not,
Yeah, I got you. So let's deal with the name of the Most High real quick, and then we'll move to the name of the Messiah. There's a point in the history of these people called Israelites, where the Most High gives his name to Moses in order to give to the people. Let me get that for you. That's in Exodus, I believe, 3. Let me see. See if I can find that for you real quick. Give me 1 second. Let's take a look at Exodus 3 and 14. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll share my screen real quick. Excellent question. I love this question. Every time I hear it. It's a common question, especially for people who are new to understanding this.
Yes, and we waking up. So that's the main question, especially from people that have been quote unquote Christians for long time.
Absolutely. So let's go here. And if someone is listening and you may have had your foundation in Christianity, which most of us here did, you're familiar with that I am that I am, right? The great I am. Okay. So we're going to read where that comes from. That's in Exodus. Let's start at chapter 3, verse 10. This is Moses getting direction from the master. If you read in your regular King James, you read the terms the Lord and God, and he's telling Moses, go to Pharaoh, tell him, let my people go. And he says, and now, verse 10, come, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. My translation reads Mizraim because I'm reading the Scriptures translation. Let me switch that real quick. Standard KJV here. Out of Egypt, verse 11. And Moses said unto Yah, I'm reading the name Yah because I know what his name is. Who am I, that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? And he says, certainly I will be with you, and this shall be a token unto thee that I have sent thee. When you have brought forth the people out of Egypt, you will serve Yah on this mountain. And Moses said unto Yah, behold, when I come unto the children of Israel and shall say unto them, the power of your fathers has sent me unto you. I'm going to read for the sake of people who know. The God of your fathers, but God means power in one respect. The power or the God of your fathers has sent me unto you. And they say to me, what is his name? Not what is his title, but they say, what is his name? What shall I say to him? Verse 14 reads, and God said to Moses, I am that I am. And he said, thus shall you say unto the children of Israel, I am has sent you. Now, most people say, the great I am. That's his name. Okay, well, let's keep reading. Because after he says, I am has sent you, he says in verse 15, and God said, moreover unto Moses, thus you shall say unto the children of Israel, the Lord God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me unto you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. That proved absolutely nothing, right? Because it said the Lord. Here's the thing. The Lord is a title. I'm going to show you something real quick. Let's go here to, I'm using a program called eSword. It's easy to get. All you got to do is Google eSword. And in this program, I simply have downloaded here multiple translations of the Bible, where you see the arrow of my cursor. So this is the KJV. This KJV plus means the King James Version of the Bible with the Hebrew and Greek Strong's Concordances. That's simply something to help us research and look at what the original words were in Hebrew and what they meant in the original translations, if that makes sense. Because the Bible wasn't originally written in English. These books were originally written in Hebrew. Some were written in Greek and then translated into English, Aramaic as well, Torah. And so if we want to get a better understanding, sometimes we go to the original language and look at those words to see a better understanding, okay? And so we're going to that same exchange and look at those words again. So he says, and Yah, well, that's a Hebrew word there. That word is Elohim. We're not going to get into that right now. So he says, thus you shall say, moreover, unto the children of Israel, here, the Lord. See, I'm highlighting right here. The Lord. That word in Hebrew Strong's Concordance is, I'm going to show you this Hebrew here. Yod, Hey, Wav, Hey. You read from right to left. Look at my cursor. Yod, Hey, Wav, Hey. Okay? I'm reading definition, from 1961, the self-existent or eternal. They say Jehovah. That's not how you pronounce that, but let's say we go with that. They say Jehovah, the Jewish national name of God. Jehovah, the Lord. Okay? I'm not going to get into the Lord right now. So I'm saying this just to show there was a name inserted there, not a title. In someone's translation, they inserted the Lord where there was an actual name, and the name was Yod, Hey, Wav, Hey. I'm going to show you that name in another place real quick. It's really easy to see. Let's go to the book of Psalms. Book of Psalms, chapter 68 and verse 4. And I'm going to go back to the regular KJV. And in just about all King James versions, you'll see this printed exactly as it should be. Psalm 68:4. Sing unto God, sing praises to his name, not his title, to his name. Exalt him that rides upon the heavens by his name. This says Jah, Jahh, and rejoice before him. Do a little research and find out when the letter J was first instituted into the English language. It's about 400 years old. So before 400 years ago, this said YAH. Why did it say that? It said that because that's his actual name. Those are the first, that's the first half of how you pronounce his name, which is Yahuah or Yahuah. I'm gonna show it to you again, Strong's Concordance. Strong's Concordance right here, JAH, H 30 and 50. Can you read my screen there, what it says? You just get Yod Hey. That's the first half of Yod Hey Wav Hey. You pronounce it Yah, right? It's a shortened version of his full name, which is Yahuah, okay? So that's the name of the Heavenly Father. Why is that important? Are you familiar with the 10 Commandments? Let's go to the 10 Commandments. Exodus 20. It's the very first commandment we read. I thought somebody was raising their hand to read from it. Start at the beginning. Exodus 20, verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Remember, these are translations. I'm reading it as it says here, but remember, these are translations. When I'm reading it among my family, I use the names that I know, which will be, I am Elohim, thy power, or I am Yahuah, thy power, which have brought you out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no mighty ones, no gods before me. Make no graven image or likeness of anything that is in the heaven above or on earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Do not bow down yourself to serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquities of the fathers upon the children to the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Here's the one, verse 7. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Don't take the name of the one who you are attempting to worship, the God of the Bible, if that's what you want to call him. Don't take his name in vain. Most of us think that the word vain means to be in love with yourself. That's not the original definition of the word vain. To take something in vain, scripturally, means to make it as if it does not exist, to bring it to nothingness. In other words, to remove it. So basically what they're saying is, don't remove my name. I want you to use my name. And so if he's telling you in the 10 Commandments, I want you to use my name, you must ask yourself, what's his name? The English translation of Lord, there's two. One is master. The other is Baal. Guess what? Baal is one of the Canaanite Phoenician deities that we as a people were condemned for worshiping. Some sick, twisted bastard removed Yahuwah's name, which is contrary to Torah, contrary to the law, and inserted the Lord in place of his name. Inserted God in place of his name. There are gods according to scripture. There's more gods than you can shake a stick at. There were 360 gods in Egypt, at least. There was a God to worship every day. And so what we were reading in Psalms and in Exodus, where we were reading about the only thing, to put it lightly, that can exist of itself. So if you go back again to Exodus 3 and 14, where he says, I am that I am. Let's go back to that real quick. I know I said I was going to be brief on the name, on his name. Where it says, I am that I am. Well, what that is in a more accurate Hebrew translation is I will be whatever I will myself to be. I will exist however I choose to exist. That term Hayah in Hebrew means to exist. He is the self-existing. He is the highest or the most high, and he is the creator of all things. Guess what? He is the creator of the gods. And so if we acknowledge that there are gods, he's saying, I'm not on the level with the gods. I created the gods. So we're not going to put him or demote him to the level as being on the same level as his creation, right? Thor is a god. Diana is a god. Wonder Woman, that's a god. Zeus is a god, right? We read about gods in the New Testament. Name some of the gods we read about in the New Testament. Apollo, Zeus, Diana is one. Athena is one. We read about the gods in the New Testament. They're not mythology. I know they told us they were mythology in school, but they are not mythology. These were deities that were worshipped by heathen nations. But over the nation of Israel was the creator of all things, and his name is Yah. And so if we're in fellowship and people are saying, yes, I believe in God, it will behoove us to identify what God they say they believe in, or who exactly they say they believe in. Every religion in the world, except for Christianity, and I'm not trying to be harsh, I'm just saying, every religion in the world can name the God they worship. Muslims say they worship Allah. Hindus say they worship Buddha, right? So what is the name of the deity that you worship? It will behoove us to know. His name is Yahuah. Okay, we see we see his name in the prophets: Isaiah, Jeremiah, Zephaniah, Obadiah. Absolutely. And when you look up the meanings of the names of those prophets, Yah is in. Zechariah is one. It means Yah remembers. Obadiah is one. It means servant of Yah. Okay, so his name is in all those. Now, hallelujah, which people say is the highest praise. When I ask people, well, what is hallelujah? They say it's the highest praise. I say, why? Why is it the highest praise? Because it has his name in it. Hallelujah is two Hebrew terms put together. Halal, Wayah. Halal, Wayah. Halal means to praise. Yah is his name. Praise Yah, or praise you, Yah. That's why hallelujah is the highest praise. His name is in it, right? Now, his son said, I have come in my Father's name and you have not received me. Let's get that real quick. Give me a second. I'm going to switch my screen. Let's look at the book of John, chapter 5 and verse 43. I'll put it up on my screen again. Going to the book of John, that's Big John. Chapter 5, let me move this out the way. And verse 43. Nothing. It says it's loading. Let me know when it comes up, if it comes up. I might be getting ready to lose internet. It's going to be that time of day, fam. Okay, I'll try to be quick. So this is the Messiah himself speaking. We just talked about the prophets, a lot of the prophets having his name in their name, literally, right? So Messiah says, I have come in my Father's name and you do not receive me. He says then, if another one comes in his own name, him you would receive. Him you will receive. Can you give me the scripture I asked y'all to pull up from me? Okay, it's probably more than one. I think it's two actually. But let's look at Hebrews chapter 4, verse 8. And I'm going to get this from the KJV. Hebrews chapter 4. No, that's not it.
Yeah, that's the one. It's Joseph. They talking about Joseph of no.
Oh, okay. Joshua, right.
So we know that Joshua's name was Yahushua.
Well, I'm just backing up so we can get context. There's another place that's clearer than that. Well, let's look at that. So it's talking about Joshua of Nun leading the children of Israel into the kingdom. And it says, I'm gonna start it. This is not the one I was looking for. Can you find another one for me? It's a lot clearer. Okay, I'm gonna read it anyway, though. It says in verse 6, saying therefore it remains that some must enter therein, and they to whom it was first preached entered not in because of unbelief. Again, he limits a certain day, saying in David, today after so long a time, it is said, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts. For if Jesus had given them rest, then he would not afterward have spoken of another day. Here's the thing. That Jesus right there is talking about Joshua. It's talking about Joshua who fought the battle at Jericho. Y'all familiar with that? And the walls came tumbling down. It's talking about Joshua. But somebody in there translated it Jesus, translated the name Yahushua as Jesus instead of Joshua.
So they got on autopilot.
Yeah.
And when they went in there and they was changing all the name Yahushua to Jesus.
Right.
For some strange reason.
Yeah.
We know that Yahushua of Nun and Yahushua the Savior had the same name.
Right.
So in the Old Testament, they kept Joshua of Nun, they kept his name Joshua.
Right.
But they changed the Messiah's name in the New Testament.
Right.
So everywhere it said Yahushua, they changed to Jesus. So somebody got on autopilot.
Right.
And instead of reading it, that was talking about the Yahushua of Nun. They just figured there's a name Yahushua, changed it to Jesus.
Can y'all hear her clearly?
But that was talking about Yahushua of Nun.
Okay. Find the other one for me as a second reference. So yeah, that's exact. Hallelujah. Yeah. So somebody changed that name to Jesus instead of translating it to what would have been rendered as a accepted English translation would have been Joshua. What does that mean? What that means is that if you were trying to translate the name of the Messiah into an English translation, what was used and acceptable in the Old Testament was Joshua. In other words, I'm reiterating what Rib just said. Joshua and the person you call Jesus would have had the same name. So why would you translate it Joshua in the so-called Old Testament and then translate it Jesus in the so-called New Testament? What we just read is an example where somebody missed. They were translating it differently in the New Testament, and they missed because they didn't read the context and see that it was talking about Joshua, and they automatically translated it Jesus, thinking it was talking about Messiah. But it's the same name. Let's look at this. If you look at the name, it is the same name, and it has a meaning. Its meaning is the deliverance of Yah. It's found in the book of Matthew when it says, and you will call his name, ... fill in the blank. It says, because he will deliver his people from their sins. His name, Yahushua, is a compound name, two words put together, meaning Yahuah delivers, or Yahuah's deliverance.
So it's kind of like what you were saying yesterday. So in yesterday's study of scriptures, we was talking about the significance of Yahushua of Nun bringing the people into Israel. And then we're given another example of another Yahushua, the son of the high priest, bringing the people into Israel the second time after the temple was rebuilt. And then we are now waiting on Yahushua, the Messiah, to bring the people back into Israel yet again. But something happened in which, the Most High speaks to us in precursors. He doesn't change. And so we see Yahushua known, we see Yahushua the high priest. We're waiting on the return of Yahushua the Messiah to bring us in for the last and final time. But they changed his name to Jesus for whatever reason, because they felt as if his name needed to be translated. First, they tell us English, but if that was true, why did they call him Jesus in Spain? And why do they call him Jesus in Europe and in Italy? And so it's not of them translating it to English. That's not true. And personally, my name is Edwina in every language that we speak. When I go to Italy, they call me Edwina. And when I come to Jamaica, they call me Edwina. My name is Edwina everywhere. Barack Obama's name is Barack Obama. In every language that's spoken, they call him Barack Obama. Why is the Messiah's name the only name that's needed to be changed in order to be translated? I don't understand. In the book of John, it tells us that there's only one name under the heavens that we can call on to be saved. And that's the one name we've chosen to change. I don't think that's a good idea.
Okay. Here's the one I was looking for. Acts chapter 7, verse 45. This one is a lot clearer to me because when we're talking about entering into his rest, y'all got it? No. Until David. That's it. Yes, that's it. Yeah. So, okay, let's start at 44, 744. This is talking about the days in the wilderness, right? That's okay. Let's look. Acts 7 and 2. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but what we learned in school, right? The first couple of sentences of a chapter give you the context of the chapter, right? Okay, so Acts 71. And then said the high priest, are these things so? And he said, men, brethren, and fathers, hearken. The power of esteem appeared to our father Abraham when he was in Mesopotamia, before he dealt in Haran, and said unto him, get thee out of the country and from thy kindred and come into the land which I will show thee. This is talking about back then in that time. Skip forward. He's going to recount a lot of things that happened up to our time in the wilderness with Moses and then Joshua. You with me? Okay, let's skip to 744. Our fathers had the tabernacle of the witness, the Ark of the Covenant, in the wilderness, as he had appointed, speaking unto Moses that he should make it according to the fashion that he had seen, which also our fathers that came after brought in with Jesus in the possession of the Gentiles, into the possessions of the Gentiles, whom Yah drove out before the face of our fathers unto the day of King David. So where they translated this name here as Jesus, it's not talking about the Messiah, it's talking about Joshua. We're still talking about our time in the wilderness. Somebody changed that name instead of using Joshua, which is the same name as the Messiah. They changed it to Jesus. And so the reason I keep saying Joshua is because if you're, what I'm trying to underscore is, stop. If you're trying to translate it into an English name, it was commonly accepted Joshua, the Hebrew version of which would be Yahusha. Joshua, Yahusha in Hebrew. Jesus is a completely different name entirely. There is an origin of that name. It has no definition, look it up for yourself, outside of the founder of Christianity, of which when we read these scriptures, especially in the Old Testament, we don't read about anybody founding anything called Christianity. I'm not saying that to be harsh. Once again, I'm just saying that as a matter of fact. We don't read about anything founded in the Old Testament called Christianity. We read about laws. We read about commandments that he said you must keep. Because you are a people who I love and whom I am trying to dwell with. And if you keep these commandments, I can then dwell with you. Now, in the name of that other individual, we have been taught that you don't have to keep those commandments. In the name of that other individual, we have been taught that he did away with those commandments. In the name of that other individual, we have been taught that all you have to do is love everybody. And that's the same thing the LGBTQ community is saying. All you have to do is love everybody and you will be accepted. But that is not what the Messiah of the Bible taught or lived by. And he had a name. And if we love him and respect him, just like your mother or your father, you would use his name and not switch his name with somebody else's name. It's not a little thing. If that makes sense. Anything y'all want to add to that? Riv, you want to add something else? Koti Gabor, you want to add something else? Yeah, it's.
No, you did fine breaking it down.
Hallelujah. I mean, that's a conversation we can have, a 2 or 3 hour conversation about in itself, because how did they come up with that name? What's the origin of that name? What are we taught in that name? You know, those are good questions and acceptable questions. And the better we understand the answers to those questions, the more you start to find out why you probably might not want to use it. God has an origin that is of English and Indo-Germanic origin. Lord has an origin that is of English, Indo-Germanic origin. And so now we're getting into etymology. Type this out for my son. I mess with him every time I say it. We're getting into etymology. What is the etymon of these words? And what they bank on is us not liking to read or to research, and they mock us by just telling us things and expecting us to just accept it. But if you start digging into word etymology, you come up with a lot of interesting stuff. You find a lot of things that have been hidden from us just by putting it in a book, just like they said. Want to hide something from a nigga, put it in a book. They don't read. Like that sister told me in the park that day. I don't read. I said, sis, stop. That ain't cute. Anybody else? Okay. All right, fam. Shalom, Koti, Kiki. Call you Kiki because Real call you Kiki. I don't even know if I got permission. All right, fam. We're going to wrap it up unless y'all have something else. They all eating in front of me.
You got permission.
You got permission? Hallelujah. Told her.
You got the permission. You can do it.
Hallelujah.
I'm about to go eat too. I'm coming off a fast.
All right. All right. We're going to get it.
Me too.
Okay.
We're going to hope smash. So I'm going to get in.
This is not a bad time to be in them fast periods, fam. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on.
It's the time to fast, family.
Okay. And man, our prayers are with y'all. We ask that y'all allow y'all prayers to be with us. Definitely tough times out here in this dark time of the year. Folks out here going plump crazy, as Rib say. But we gonna make it.
Well, you know, it's the time for the wicked people. They celebrating. They getting ready for their big festival for Sun God. So
yeah,
a lot of ill spirits on the planet right now.
Yeah, we finna cross that spiritual veil, right? Like the good thing about learning the calendar now is, you know, you start looking at a little bit more clearly the spiritual veil that we cross through. As far as, you know, what they're looking at is the zodiac, and crossing through this spiritual veil where they feel like the opening for the portals to summon what they're trying to summon is easier to get access to. So as they're trying to communicate with these spirits, there's a thinner barrier. And this is the best time for them to summon those deities and those spirits. That's what's actually going on. When we say we're entering the dark times of the year. So when you're looking at that calendar and you're looking at, you know, those seasons and those gates, right? And those portals, that's what these pagans are understanding. And they're saying, in this dark time of the year, it's our time to shine.
When they get to talk about this Christmas spirit,
yeah,
like they push the Christmas spirit, be in the spirit, be in the Christmas spirit. Man, I see people fighting in the parking lot.
That's the Christmas spirit.
Fighting over squash.
Yeah.
I seen 2 ladies fighting over butternut squash. I'm like, why are you fighting? I mean, fighting over the last butternut squash. I said, that Christmas spirit running rampant.
Right.
They about to kill each other over a butternut squash.
You asked for it, and it was given. Feel the spirit. See the
Fighting
spirit.
over parking spots. I mean, coming to blows over parking spots.
And the beautiful thing, fam, once you get this thing down, you be out there because you got to go to the grocery store, not because you want to. You be out there, in the mall or shopping just because you feel like it, not because you're celebrating. And you see all the people going crazy, and somebody might do something, and for a second you be like, wait a minute, like the Boondocks episode. I don't even celebrate it. No, you know what? Go ahead. You can have that.
You can have that last turkey.
You can have all that. I don't even kick it like that. And you have successfully at that point entered into his rest. You have made light your burden. You understand? You've avoided a nigga moment. Yeah, successfully avoided a nigga moment. Yeah. Family, we love y'all. We will see y'all next time. Y'all will
Love y'all.
Hallelujah. Shabbat shalom, family.
Love you guys too.
All right. See you soon.
Love you guys. Shabbat shalom.
Because I've been blessed by the grace. I'm cold as fresh. Yes, I'm cold as fresh. Yes, I'm too blessed to be stressed because I yeah, we gonna run it like that. I say yes. I'm too blessed to be stressed. Nevertheless, I must confess. Yes, this is Project Wake Up Jacob. On the Sabbath we rest and reflect upon his goodness. Because we are guided by the Ruach Kodesh. Yes, whenever I get dressed, yes, I'm dripping Kodesh fresh. Yes, this style fit me down to a T because I'm a roughie.